um, do much of Figma. We are trying to understand the UX process. I think I covered you know the UX process, what UX and UI design is during the last class. So
Yeah,
and then I introduced Figma too, the interface.
yeah,
Although we are not
yes.
done. Yeah, I'm to introduce you guys to user centered design. It can also it's also known as UCD, user centered design, and also design thinking. I don't know if you heard something like that before. Design thinking. Have you?
Thinking.
I didn't get you.
You said design thinking.
Yes, design thinking. Have you heard of anything like that?
No, but I think I have an idea of it.
Okay. So we are going to uh, talk a bit on design thinking, and we are going to talk on user-centered design too. Yeah. So for a start, I think, are you with your system?
Mm, yes.
If you're with your
Yes.
system, we can actually finish up what we started. We started talking on the about the interface of Figma, right? So I think
Yes.
we should finish it up, and then when we are done, we'll jump into user-centered design.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me. I'm opening Figma now. So yeah, I'm in Figma, and I'll be sharing my screen. I'll be sharing my screen. So I'll be doing that here. Okay. Now I'm sharing my screen. Hope you can see it.
Yes, I can see.
Fine, fine, fine. So in the last class, we spoke about these tools on the right toolbar, and I think we stopped somewhere. We stopped around here, where we were talking about the corner radius of the objects.
Yes.
Exactly. And like I said, remember, if no component, no item, no elements is activated here, you won't have extra options on the right toolbar. So yeah, clicking on that, you see options here. So let's talk about um, the layer, this layer tab here. Now we can see different settings for this layer, which means if you apply these settings to the layer, it's going to change the way that layer looks. For example, for this cow image now, let me apply a different filter. If I click on color burn, see that it has changed that image to something else. It changed the look of the layer. Let me try something else. Overlay. It actually looks different. This is not the original look. Exclusion. It actually looks different. Here's how the original looks like. Normal.
Okay.
So yeah, you can actually use this to add some kind of effects to your images if you're designing, or to your design. Okay. Yeah, and then another thing you can do is to adjust the opacity the of the design you're working on. So let's say you want this thing to be a bit transparent. What you do is to change this value, adjust this value. If I take this value lower to, let's say, like 20, notice that this image is partly transparent, which means if I move this shape under this image, it's actually under the image. Okay, let me move it down all the way to the bottom. This image now is under this other image, but you can see it because the opacity of this image is slightly transparent. If I take it back to 100, you can't see that square any longer. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
So that's the work of this button here. You actually adjust the opacity of the design you're working on. As you can see, this is still underneath, but you cannot see it again. But if we take it lower to about 50%, you can see it. So that's for opacity. Now, coming down here to the Fill tab, you would see different properties here. Now, the image property shows that there's actually an image within this design that you selected. And if you click on the image itself, if you click here now, you will see that image. Here, you can decide to adjust the image by either deciding to fit it to the frame or crop it. Now, you can adjust how the image will look like. So I can select the image, be only the head showing. And if I click on enter, it's only that head that will show. Let me take this back to 100. So you have different settings for the image. You can also adjust the image opacity. Now, note the difference. This opacity here is for the whole layer. That means everything here, you adjust it. Meanwhile, this one is peculiar to that particular element you're trying to adjust. So this opacity is peculiar to this image, only this image. It doesn't affect this other one. Exactly.
Yes.
So let me adjust this to 20. Now, the color of this square, the original rectangle, is this gray kind of color. Let me adjust it. Now, as you can see, the the rectangle under it is still 100% opacity, and it's showing through this one because we adjusted it. It's slightly transparent now. If I take this back to 100, everything goes back to normal. The same thing is applied to the same thing applies for this one. If I adjust the opacity, let's say to about that, it actually won't affect this image because it's on top. Sure, you understand? So let me take it back to 100. So that's for this panel, and you can actually decide to add more properties here by clicking on this plus button. So if you want to add maybe an extra image again on top, I can do that by clicking on this button, and now we have an image. We have an image here. So if I increase the opacity, it blocks out the image that is under it. This rectangle now becomes 100% opacity, and it blocks out the image, anything that's under it. Now, if I click on this minus button, it removes this overlay. So if I click on it, that overlay actually automatically gets out. So that's for this tab. And coming down to stroke, what stroke does, let me move this in a way so I will see this one. Now, what stroke does is that, let me create another rectangle quickly inside here and give it maybe white color. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, sure. Now, if I apply a stroke to this particular square, see what happens. It creates a boundary around it. It shows the boundary of that shape. Have you noticed now? You can see here an outline, a black outline around the object. That is the stroke we just added. So a stroke shows the boundary of an object. So if I add a stroke to this particular one, you will see the boundary. To add a stroke, I'll click on this plus button, and it does that. It adds a stroke. Now let me change this stroke to white color. Or no, let me change it to red color so it to be obvious. And you can increase or reduce the thickness of the stroke. So if I click and scrub or click and drag, I can increase the thickness. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Nice. Now, the same thing for this one. If I click here and drag, I can increase the thickness of this stroke. Now, there are many other settings I can adjust around here. If I click on these three dots here, it will open extra options for me to select the stroke style. If I click on dash, it becomes a dashed stroke. That is, it's not continuous. It has breaks in between. And I can adjust the end points of those dashes. If I click on this, it makes them circular. If I click on this, it makes them square. And then it adds extra. Sorry, I think I'm going too deep, but just know that you can actually adjust the looks of the stroke. I hope you understand. So,
Yes.
let me take it back to the regular solid stroke. And yeah, so this is basically what the stroke does. Stroke adds outline or margin to what you're designing. Okay. Okay, going next. The next, let me move this stroke because I want to demonstrate something else. So to remove any of these effects you've added, you can just simply click on this minus button and it gets off. You've seen that, right?
Yes, I've seen it.
Cool. Let me reduce this stroke. It's too thick, but let me just leave it at 8. Fine. Now, let's move to the next effects. Effects. Well, it's yeah, just what the word means. It adds effects to your design. So if I click on this plus button, I actually get a default effect, which is a drop shadow. What it does is that it adds a shadow underneath the object you're trying to work on. So this object that I selected here, you notice that is the one that has the effect, and it has a shadow now. If you look closely, you see a shadow underneath it. Now, shadows, what they do is that they try to tell you that, okay, this element is raised, like it's kind of lifted up, and then there's light casting shadow upon the base or the floor where the object was resting. I don't know if you understand that point.
Understand.
Fine. Now, let me show you that you can adjust this shadow. It's called a drop shadow. A drop shadow means the object is elevated, then the shadow is falling underneath it. Now, I can adjust the shadow by clicking on this sunshine button here. So if I click on it, you can adjust the position. You can adjust the position of the shadow in the X and the Y axis. Now see what happens. If I click and scrub, see that I'm changing where the shadow is positioned, either to the left side or the right hand side.
Okay.
I can also adjust it for the vertical axis, that's the Y direction. So it can be up, it can be down. Now notice something. The farther away this shadow is from the object, the more the object looks like it's going is like it's floating, the more it's going higher. I don't know if I explained that properly, but if you understand what I mean. The shadow now
Can you
represents
say
how,
that again?
yeah, the if you see how far the shadow is from the object, it kind of shows how far the object is from the floor. I think that's clear enough. I don't know if you
Yes.
understand. Yeah. So if I make this shadow closer now, you will feel like this object is just leaving the floor. Let's take this as a floor
Hmm.
now. Let's take this part now as a floor. This one. Now, if I increase this, you will feel like the object now is moving up. I don't know if you understand. Move like
And
it is
like the object is farther from the
from the
shadow.
from the floor. Yes, from the floor.
Okay, from the floor. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, all these are complexities, but you will get to understand it better when you start practicing. Now, you can
Okay.
blur out the shadow if you don't want the edges to look too sharp. And now, if I take it to 0, you will see that it's more like another square that's under it. But if I
Yes.
blur it out the more, it will look more like a shadow. Like now, it looks perfectly like a shadow.
Yes.
So I can adjust the setting. I can increase it. I can reduce it. So, and then you can also adjust the spread. That's how wide it will go. So if I see, you can see how wide it's going now.
Hmm.
Exactly. Another thing to make this more beautiful, you can even reduce the opacity. So if I reduce the opacity now, it will look kind of transparent to some extent. Well, all these are just technicalities, but yeah, you can also play with those settings and make your design look more beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just one of the effects. Let me move it. Let me add another effect called inner shadow. Now, inner shadow, it does the opposite of drop shadow. The inner shadow now shows that this element you're working on is going down. Remember, the drop shadow made it look like it's going up. This one now makes it look like
Yes.
it's going down. So let me
Okay.
adjust. Let me adjust the inner shadow and show you. If I increase this and I increase this, so this part now looks like a hole. This thing now looks like a
Yes.
hole. Now it looks like there's something inside the hole. So that's what the drop shadow
Hmm.
does. It moves whatever element you're working on, it moves it down, while the drop shadow moves it up. And yes, you can add both drop shadow and um, and inner shadow at the same time. It's funny, but you can do it. So as you can see, I have the both of them. So yeah, I don't know if I'll say it's confusing, but you can actually do anything you want to do just to make your design look nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me remove these effects. There are other effects.
So you can add more than one effect to your design.
Yes, yes, you can. You can. Layer blur. Let me layer blur. What layer blur does is that it actually blurs out that layer. So for example, let me bring in an image. I'm going to use Unsplash plugin to insert an image to this guy, this square. So let me search for an abstract image. Abstract. Okay. Now we are going to get this thing out and place it in this image. I'll just click on it and it will fill itself in automatically. You seen that, right?
Yes, I've seen it.
Now, if you want to make this piece more beautiful, maybe I don't want all these edges to show very well. What I will do is to add a layer blur. Now, see what happens. If I add a layer blur, have you seen that it has blurred it out?
Blur the edges.
Yes, he blurred the whole image. That image that is on the rectangle on the square. Sorry.
Okay.
If I increase the blur, see that it becomes like. Have you noticed something? There's a change.
Yes, I've noticed.
The
Yes.
more I increase it, the more it blurs it out until you hardly see anything there. So this thing can be used to
Yes.
add more beauty to your design. So it becomes an effect. If I
Okay.
take it back to zero, you see that image clearly. But if I
Yes.
start blurring it out, you see the change, right? So all this,
Okay.
so these effects panel are used to add beauty to your design. So I think um yeah, that's for layer blur. I can also add another effect called background blur. Now background blur actually blurs the background, not that layer again. So if I draw another rectangle here, another square, sorry, I'm always calling it rectangle. If I draw another square here and I add where background blur effects, let me adjust it so we'll see what happens. Oh, sorry, it's not going to show. It's not going to show.
It is white. The
The
color is white.
well, not basically the color. Let's see. Um, it's supposed to blur. If I create another image within this one, if it's a frame and I create an image within, I didn't want to jump to frame so it's not be confusing. The background of the frame will actually blur out while leaving whatever
Okay.
image, like the focus object to be on top while the background will be blurred out. But that's for
Okay.
frames. I think when we start working with frames and modifying frames, we'll touch that one. So yeah, so that's that complexity so far. Um, Now, if you want to export this design you just made, you can come to the export settings down here. Click on export and select the formats you want to export. So you can export as JPEG, as PNG, as SVG, or as PDF. So if I click on export now, it will export this design. So before I export, let me group this design. To group the design means you are making this design. If you notice, this is a different element. This is a different element. There are two different elements. One
Yes.
is just on top the other. But I can now group all of them together by making them one element. If I right click, I can see an option called group selection. Look at it here. If I click on group selection, it makes this object a group. So now, as you can see, it's one element now. Have you
Mm.
seen that?
Yes.
So if I come to export, I can click on export, select the type of export format I want. So I can select PNG for here for this one, and click on export. I'll select where let me save it to my desktop. If I click on save and I go to my desktop, let me go to the desktop. Let me open this up. Now look at that design we just did. I exported it so we can view it as an image now.
You are still on Figma. I can't see your desktop.
Oh, sorry. I was sharing only Figma screen. Let me switch to let me just share the whole screen. Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen now? I'm sharing my whole screen now.
Mm, Yes, I can see your own screen.
Fine. So let me go back to let me close this one. Now I saved that file to my desktop. So if I go to desktop, look at it here. If I open it, it actually shows as an image.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of Figma. So Figma, you can decide to use it for other design jobs too. It must not only be this thing, be UI design, maybe for mobile phones or for websites. You can use it for other things too. Like myself, I use it for other things. There are some jobs that I'm supposed to use Photoshop to do. I can use Figma to do it because Figma has some tools that can enable you to do those designs.
Okay.
Okay, so I think so far we've covered all these parts. So now we're moving to the left toolbar just to check out all the elements that are here to know what they can do. So now, as I grouped this design here, if you come here, you will see a little drop down icon. If I click on it, you will see the elements that are inside that group, which is this rectangle, the small one, and then the bigger rectangle. Now you can rename elements here. If I select something, if I select this and I click a second time, and I double click, it will give me the ability to rename such elements. So since this is the big square, I can call it big square. Sorry. If I press enter, I'm going to save that name. So that's the new name of that other square. The smaller one now, I can also double click and rename it small square. So now I have names for this guy and this guy. I can also name this guy. What should we name it? Let me just name it abstract abstract design. Abstract design. So now, if I have so many elements in this my design in this screen now, or maybe I want to select some particular element but I cannot see it, I can just come and check here now, and based on the name I will know what it is. I can select it, and then there's a shortcut to view whatever elements you've selected here, or you can come here and go to, or it won't show this guy. Shift on your keyboard and 2 will show you what you've highlighted here. So if I click on shift and 2, is it not highlighting? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. If I select any element here and I click on shift and 2, it will bring that element to the screen so that I can see it.
Okay.
If I click on this polygon and I click on shift 2, it will take me to the polygon. If I click on this ellipse and I click on shift 2, it will take me there. If I click on this rectangle and I press shift 2, it will take me to the rectangle. So now,
Okay.
you've seen this helps you to arrange the elements in your design, give them names, organize them, so that you won't get confused when you're designing. Because what Figma does is that you can continue duplicating something and it will give you the same, it will be naming it the same name, it will not change the name. Like now, if I duplicate this object, the name still remains rectangle. It just remains rectangle, like rectangle. So at the end of the day, if you have so many things here, you won't know which one is which, because you have so many. Which means you have to rename them. If they are different, you have to give them different names. So you can call this one a different name. You can call this one cow. You can call the next one dog, just like that, so that you organize everything. And at the end of the day, you can still group all these objects together. If I select the first one and I hold down shift and select the last one, I will select all of them at the same time. And if I right click and press and select this group selection, it will group everything together. So all of these now are inside one group, and I can call this group cow.
If
Now
you
whenever
group
I want,
something, can you group it again?
sorry,
If you group an object on your design, can you ungroup them again?
yes, you can ungroup them. So if I click on this group, and I think if I right click here, I can see on group. Look at it here.
Okay.
So if I ungroup, all of them have become scattered again. So everything is on its own.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can learn a shortcut for group. A shortcut for group is Control G. So simply, if I click on Control G, everything becomes a group. So yeah, um, that's it basically. So just so you know, you can rename elements in your design from the left toolbar. You can also select the elements on your design. So as you can see, I'm selecting different designs. If I click on this to select that one, select this one, select that one, just like that. And note that before you select, even as you're moving on top the elements, as you're highlighting them, you can see there's also highlighting on the screen. It's
Mm.
also showing you what that element is on the screen. So if I highlight this one, I will know that that rectangle with the cow is the one. If I highlight this, I will notice that that circle down there is the one. So all these are just to help you design faster, so you can easily recognize what you're trying to work on and then work on it as fast as possible. So you can rename just to make your design organized and so on. So I think that's it so far for the interface of Figma. So for now, we are going to pause with Figma and then go back into um, user experience design. So we're going to understand what user-centered design is and what design thinking is. Let me quickly
Okay.
close this and then I'll open the presentation I created. So let's talk about user-centered design. Seeing this, what comes to your head? Do you have any idea just from this right up now, user-centered design? What comes into your head?
Okay. Thinking about the user
Yeah,
before you take a design.
exactly. So when you talk about user experience design, like I said from the beginning, user experience, we are working to see that the user, that is the person that will use our product, not us, not our clients, but the user, the end user. We're trying to see that at the end of the day, they will be satisfied with their experience while they use the design, while they use your products. So user-centered design means when you're making a design, you are tailoring that design for your users, not for yourself. For example, now I might like the color blue, and I will say, okay, this design I want to make it blue color. Now because I like blue color, I'll start making my design blue color. What if at the end of the day, users that are going to use the product, the app, don't like blue color? What if they like red? What if they like white? What if they like orange color? What if they like yellow color? It means those users now will not use my design because I designed it based on what I like, not based on what I want them to enjoy or based on what I want them to like. So user-centered design, it's trying to it's trying to make designers understand that whatever you're making, whatever design you are working on, you are making it specifically for your end users, not for yourself. I hope that's clear enough.
Yes.
So yeah, let's follow this right up. So user-centered design is an iterative design process in which designers focus on the users. This is a keyword here. Users, focus on the users and their needs in each phase of the design process. In user-centered design, design teams involve users throughout the design process via a variety of research and design techniques to create highly usable and accessible products for them. The them here is the users. So at the end of the day, throughout your design process, when you start doing the research until when you finally test the design, all the processes in between, you focus on the user, just the user and nothing but the user, not you, not what you like, not what you think is right, but what the users will want, what the users will like. And you're also trying to satisfy their needs. So if the user's need is not satisfied, it means your design was for yourself, not for the users. So in the world of UX and UI design, whatever you are doing is for your users. So throughout this journey of UI UX design, you will keep hearing user, user, user. And even the name of the course itself is user experience and user interface, not just experience and interface design, but user interface, user experience design. I hope that's clear enough.
Yes.
So yeah, this image here just shows us a process that is taken to ensure that your users are the main focus in your design. So to design for users, first of all, you need to understand the context of use, which means you need to know why they need that product. You need to understand their needs and then design to solve whatever problem they are facing. You also need to specify user requirements. What are those things that they need? What are those specific things that they require for that design? You need to specify it. You need to ideate and bring up different ideas that will help you solve those problems. And then you need to design solutions. This is where you do the main design. These other two processes behind are just kind of research. Now this is where you do the design. You try to tailor your design to fit what you could get from ideating in this process here, where you were trying to specify user requirements. When you're done designing, you will now test. This is where you put a checklist. You create a checklist and then you can start ticking. You will check if all those things that they required here have been checked. If it has been checked, then you know that your design is actually for the users. But if at the end of the day what you get here doesn't satisfy the user, it means you have to start again from maybe from the beginning. That's why you're seeing all these arrows here. So when you get here, if what you do here doesn't satisfy this process or this part, you will go back to this part and then rework on it. Now to evaluate, you actually need users, real life people to test out that product. So based on what their feedback is, you would know whether you have to go back here, or you have to go back here, or you have to go back here. And if you don't need to go back to any of these processes, it means your design has passed this stage, and then you can actually you can now release your products to the public to be used by them. So as you can see, if you have issues with understanding the user from the beginning of the design process, it means you have to go back. You go back here and then start all over again and then come back. If you go to the end and you figure out that there are some things that are missing in your design, maybe the icons are not okay, you will come back to this level and then you work on those icons. So that's basically user-centered design. So everything you are doing throughout the process from the start to the finish has to do with satisfying the users.
All right.
Is there any confusion? You can ask any question.
No, there's no confusion.
Okay. So yeah, design thinking. Design thinking. I think if you have a product, if we are to design, let's say, an app, maybe an app for an e-commerce company, one process that is kind of widely or most widely used is design thinking. So this is just a summary of design thinking down here. Design thinking is both an ideology and a non-linear process. We'll get to understand this better. Let's move to the next slide. Now, design thinking is an approach used for practical and creative problem solving. It is based heavily on the methods and processes that designers use, like I said earlier. Sorry, let me go back. Hence, the name. But it has actually evolved from a range of different fields, including architecture, engineering, and business. Design thinking can also be applied to any field at all. It doesn't necessarily have to be design specific. So let me try to explain design thinking in engineering processes. If I want to create a bottle opener, I can apply the design thinking process. Sorry, I think let me try to explain the process first. Then I'll explain design thinking in engineering terms. So let's go to the next slide. This is the process of design thinking, and there are 5 stages of design thinking. We have the empathize stage or phase. We have the define phase. We have the ideate phase, prototype, and then the test phase. Now, for each of these phases, there are various activities that to be carried out. So as you can see here, in the empathize phase, you have to conduct interviews, you have to conduct shadowing, that is, you have to select people that you have to use, you have to understand the users, and you have to be non-judgmental. That is, you're not going to judge any feedback you get from users. Anything you get is actually useful. In UX design, there are no feedbacks that are worthless. Every single feedback is important. It helps you tailor your design for the user. So for the define phase, you're going to create personas, role objectives, decisions, challenges. Sorry, I think this will be better understood when I finish explaining what all these phases are about. Um, I hope I'm not confusing you so far.
No.
What should you take out? What you should take out from this slide you're seeing is the design thinking process comprises of 5 different stages. Here, at the first stage, at the empathize stage, you have to understand your users. That's basically what this stage is about. In the define stage, you have to define the problem. You have to know what the problem is. You have to understand the problem. Here, you're understanding the users. Here, you're understanding the problem that they face. The idea stage, here you are to create ideas that to solve these problems here at the define stage. So whatever you think up here is what you move on with to the next stage. So the next stage is a prototype stage where you create solutions, where you would actually take these solutions, change them into design, and then try to solve these problems here. So here you will create a design, you will test, you would create mock-ups for the design, you will create prototypes for the design to make sure that these designs you make here solve these problems down here. And then the final stage is to test this prototype you've made. If this prototype satisfies these problems and satisfies the users, it means this design thinking process is done. You're done with it. But if at the end of the day what you do here doesn't satisfy the user, it means you have to start again from the beginning. So according to the previous slide here, it's a non-linear process, which means you can go back and you can go forth. If you go to the next stage and what you're doing there doesn't satisfy the previous stage, you have to go back. So that's what design thinking is about. So let's move on and explain each of these stages further. So at the first stage, the empathize stage, you have to research your users' needs. So you have to understand the users. So let me read this. Here you should gain an empathetic understanding of the problem you are trying to solve, typically through user research. So as you can see, you have to research your users to understand the problem. Empathy is crucial to a human-centered design process, such as design thinking, because it allows you to set aside your own assumptions about the world and gain real insights into users and their needs. Now, when I was talking earlier about user-centered design, I made mention that it's not what you think or what you feel or what you do or what you like that your users might like. Everybody is
Mm.
different. And at the end of the day, since you are designing for the users, what you think doesn't matter. What you feel doesn't matter. It's all about your users. You have to see their world from their own point of view. You have to understand their feelings. You have to appreciate them as human beings. Like everybody has different choices. So you have to understand that okay, my users, my users' choices might be different from mine. So you have to appreciate them as human beings and you have to communicate your own understanding. Now when you're researching users, you're trying to get as many ideas as possible. So you're trying to get every feedback from them. So you have to make communication easy for both of you. You have to understand them and they have to understand you too. That will help you pass this stage and move to the next stage, which will be the define stage. Here you're going to state your users' needs and their problems. The information you got from the first stage where you research your users, you're going to bring those information out. You are going to accumulate them.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, okay. So, like I said, at the define stage, which is stage 2, you have to state your users' needs and their problems. Now, coming from the previous stage, whatever you got from there, you have to put them together now. You have to analyze them, you have to synthesize them to define the problem. Here you are going to understand the problem clearly. So let me read this. It's time to accumulate the information gathered during the empathize stage. You then analyze your observations and synthesize them to define the core problems you and your team have identified. These definitions are called problem statements. You can create personas to help keep your efforts human-centered before proceeding to ideation. Now, I think there are some keywords I have to point out here. Like here, I've seen problem statements. A problem statement is just a statement that clearly states out your user's problems. So if I'm a user and I don't enjoy using Konga app, I should have a problem statement. My problem statement might be, my name is Bekwa. I I don't enjoy using the Konga app because I can't navigate the app. So that's a problem statement. I've actually made it clear what my problem is and why that problem exists. So that's a problem statement. And then another keyword here is personas. Now, a persona is a fictional character. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is a fictional character that would represent users, so you can pinpoint your problems and create solutions as if you're creating it for one person. Let me make you understand that better. If I conduct research and I meet about 10 people, I'm going to have insights from 10 different people, which means what one person says might not be the same as what the other people will say. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Now, if I want to create a design, I cannot start creating design for 10 different people. I cannot create a design for the first person, the second person, all the way to the 10th person. No, there have to be only one design. But that one design now has to satisfy those 10 people. You
Okay.
get? Now,
Yes.
to make the process easy, instead of trying to say, okay, from this person say he likes blue color, this second person say he likes white color, the third person say he likes this color, and so on. Instead of doing all that, what you do is that you create a fictional character which will be one person, and then that one person, you will bring all those features, all those different ideas or feedback those other people give you, those 10 people give you. You will bring all those ideas, accumulate them, and then give them to only one person. Now that one person will possess all the different color combinations those other people liked. It will possess all the different features those 10 people want to see. I don't know if it's kind of getting clear to you. So just like the way we create summaries for some, maybe let's say like a novel you read, you can create a summary of it. If persona is a summary of a multitude of people, so if I interview 10 people, a persona will be that one person that will summarize all their problems. I don't know if it's clear, but I think so far I've been able to kind of make you understand what a persona is. But we'll get to a stage where we'll explore more on personas. So this is just the second stage where you define or where you state your user's needs and problems. So the next stage is the ideate stage. So this is where you're going to create ideas upon ideas, thousands of ideas, and at the end of the day, you might not use all the 1,000 ideas. It will only be one that you use, and that one might be a combination of the 1,000 ideas. So this stage is actually one of the most important stages in the design process. Although there's no one that is more important than the other, but all of them are all of them are relevant. Although I see this one as very important, because if you get the idea you're trying to create wrong, it means everything you've worked for is a waste. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, fine. So now you're ready to generate ideas. The solid background of knowledge from the first two phases means you can start to think outside the box. Look for alternative ways to view the problem and identify innovative. Yeah, this keyword innovate. I love using this word every time. Identify innovative solutions to the problem statements you've created. Brainstorming is particularly useful here. Now let me quickly show you something. Um, Let me check for problem statements. Now this is a problem statement. I'm a student. I use this site to carry out some activities, but it's difficult to carry activities because blah blah blah, which makes me feel blah blah blah. Now this is a problem statement. From this statement, you can think up ideas that you use to solve this problem that this user has. So if this user says his problem is carrying out activities, you will start thinking of different ways to tackle that problem. You think of maybe a way to make the user enjoy the interface or extra options for the users to have while they are trying to explore that interface so that it will be easy for them to use. Since their problem was the interface being difficult for them to use. Can you get me?
Yes.
Okay, so here you're basically trying to create ideas. So if someone has an issue with a glass cup because the cup is always breaking, now you can start thinking, what if I make a cup out of plastic? What if I make a cup out of metal? It will not break again, and now you solve the user's
Yes.
problem. So those are ideas, and you're able to create a plastic cup, and then the user is satisfied because when the plastic cup falls on the ground, it will not break again. You solve that user problem, and that innovation came out from the ideate stage, which is a stage 3. So here, whatever you decide on here, whatever you decide on this stage, it becomes a final say. Although you can still come back, like I said, design thinking is not a straightforward process. You go front and you go back. So if you come to this stage and you find out that there's something that didn't work out well, you can go back. You can always go back. It's iterative. Iterative means you can go forth and you can go back. You can repeat what you've done before. I don't know if you understand.
I understand you.
Yeah, Mr. Ephraim, welcome. You can unmute your mic so you can speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we've gone to some extent, but we'll continue. At the end of the day, you can check the YouTube channel for the video so that you can go through where we started from.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. So the fourth stage in the design thinking process is the prototype stage. Here, you will start creating solutions for the users. For the users. All throughout the process of design thinking, all you're focusing on is the users, the users, the users, the users. There is no time when you focus on the client you're working for. The client is not the user. The client is the person that brought the job for you to do. But at the end of the day, you're trying to satisfy people that will use the product, end users, not the client, not yourself, not stakeholders in the company. So the fourth stage, you are going to create solutions, and these solutions you are creating is based off of the previous stage you just passed, the idea stage. So whatever idea you come up with, this stage is going to develop those ideas. So here, let me read this this text here. This is an experimental phase. You are creating experiments. Now, a prototype, according to this image here, a prototype is like a test of what you're trying to work on. Here in this context, you're working on designs. So the prototype is actually a design that is used to check out the ideas you've created to see if all the ideas you've generated to see if they actually satisfy the user. So at this stage, you can modify, you can remove, you can add. According to this image, there are robots here. There are supposed to be 4 robots. One is out, which is the first design. It's been scrutinated. It's been checked. It's been which word should I use here? Like the person that created these robots is actually checking it out to see if it's actually satisfy what it was created for. So at the end of the day, you've seen the head falling off, you've seen the hand falling off, you've seen this other hand falling off, which means it doesn't satisfy what it was created for. Maybe it was created to be carrying load. If it breaks down like this, it means it has to be modified. So at the prototype stage, it's experimental. What doesn't work doesn't mean it's final. You can always modify. So the aim is to identify the best possible solution for each problem found. Your team, you're here. If you're not working in the team yourself, you should produce some inexpensive, scaled down version of the products to investigate the ideas you've generated. So in this stage, if my users want app with let's say green color, and I design an app using the accent color to be green, they may say they like green color, but at the end of the day, using the products with green color will not satisfy them, might not satisfy them. So now, after creating a prototype, the next stage, which is a test stage, will help you figure out if what you just designed is what the users actually need. So after creating a prototype, let's say my prototype is a design for an e-commerce app called Konga. I would take this Konga design. I will invite maybe about 5 people, and I'll give these 5 people the design, maybe one at a time. I'll allow those people to go through the design and then try to get their feedback. If I start hearing things like, Omo, I don't like the way this icon is placed though. What if this icon was here? I'll write it down. If I hear from another person, the person says, I don't think I like the way these images are oriented. Maybe they were tilted. What if they are straight? That's an idea. I'll write it down. Just like that until I get to the last person. Now, the feedback I got from those various people, I will go back. I can go back to this stage. If it has to do with what I did here, I'll go back to this stage and then try adjusting those things that they mentioned. If it has to do with the very first stage, I'll come back here and try to understand the users again. Sometimes it's possible that you are trying to understand what somebody wants, but you don't understand it clearly. Maybe there's something you didn't get right. It means at the end of the day, if you didn't get something right here, at the end of the day, when you are testing the product, you will come back to this place and do it all over again because you got it wrong here. That's why design thinking is iterative. You don't just go straight and think you're done. There are times you have to come back. I don't know if you guys are following.
Yes, I'm following you.
That's good. So if at this stage you have a checklist and you start ticking all the boxes and there's no box that's left unchecked, it means you've passed this stage. If you pass this stage, your product is ready to be developed and sent into the world, to the public. So these 5 stages are the stages of design thinking. And if you can, or no, not if you can, if you guys are going to continue this training we've started, we are going to design an app from start to finish using the design thinking process. And the reason why I'm doing that is because after this training, you're supposed to get to the level where you'll be able to reach out to potential employers to employ you based on your skill set. So you should be able to show that you can design an app from start to finish. Some people cannot do that. Some people basically do only UI. Some people, if you call them and tell them that you want to design an app, they can design it for you in the next 1 hour or 2 hours. They can finish the design or one day. But if you are following the design thinking process from start to finish, I don't think it's possible to carry out a design in one day. So if I want to employ somebody, if I have 2 people to employ and one person can do the design very fast and the other person can do a thorough design. Thorough design means you do the UX and then you do the UI. I will pick the person that can do the UX and the UI, not the person that can do only the UI. So this process is actually is very vital, it's very important as a UX designer, as a UX and UI designer. You have to satisfy each stage of the design thinking process. And it's only when you are done, only when you pass this stage, that your product is ready. So that's it for design thinking. Um, I think I can stop sharing my screen now. So far, I don't know if there are questions you guys want to ask. You can drop them. If there's any stage, if there's any place where you're confused, you can ask questions. Any questions?
There's no question from me.
Okay. Mr. Ephraim, how about you? Like from where you stopped, is there any question? From where you started from, is there any question?
No, please. It's highly understood. It's clear.
Okay. Okay. So what you do is, I think by between today and tomorrow, this video will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. The link is always posted on the main group, the general group. So you can follow that link and get to see the parts we started from. We actually started touching we continue from the Figma interface because we didn't finish it last time. So you start from there and then reach up to the points you met us this evening. So I think that's it for today. I actually adjusted the time on the timetable to 1 hour for each class, so that even if you're busy, you could quickly hop into class and then finish for that day and then go back out. And so far, I can provide the slides we've used if you guys will need it, and then provide resources that you use or that you would need to learn more on what we've spoken or what we've talked on so far. So I think between today and tomorrow, I'll provide them if they are needed.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
Okay, and then see you tomorrow. I think between tomorrow and Monday, tomorrow is Saturday. Between tomorrow and Monday, there will be a test just to check out how well you understood what we've done so far. I hope that's going to be okay. It's not too early, right? I think it's the right time after a week a test. After a week a test, just to see if you guys understand what we're doing so far.
What platform will we use for the test?
Yeah, I would let you guys know later on. I have to speak with the management to be sure of what platform we'll be using.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's basically objective. No, this thing. It's just something easy. Just pick up the right answers and that's all. So that's it for today. We'll see in the next class. If you have any questions at any time, if you're trying to explore the Figma interface and you have any issues, you can always drop questions on the group. I'm there to answer. I'm always available. So we'll see you guys in the next class. Have a nice evening.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.